Hey, Laura Brandenburg here from Bridging the Gap, and today I want to talk about how to handle resistant stakeholders. And in particular, we received a question from the community about this particular business analyst was working with users of a potential CRM system who really liked their paper processes, right? I'm there, I got paper notes right here. But there's a lot of things I do electronically too, but they were really resistant to transitioning over to using the new customer relationship management system. And he just wondered if he'd done everything he could to help bring them up to speed on the new system and to engage them and make sure it met their needs. So let's talk about that. How do we handle resistant stakeholders, those who really, really don't like technology? So here's what you do. I'm going to talk about 5 different strategies to make sure that you're engaging resistant stakeholders to the best of your ability. So the first is to build an individual relationship. And we actually have a whole video that I'll link to in the post with this video that I talk about different ways of cultivating a one-on-one relationship with a stakeholder and helping them understand business analysis. So make sure you're really taking some time to invest in that relationship with that stakeholder, not just as like a stakeholder, but as a person, right? A work relationship. This doesn't have to be like your best friends and go out for coffee or drinks every day, but just that you care about them as a person and that you're not just there because of a project need, but that you actually, have a relationship with them outside of just that context of that very specific project. It's going to help build trust and smooth the wheels for more conversations, deeper conversations, and a real basis of trust and understanding. Then take time to understand their current process, right? So their current business process, as paper bound as it might be. What are they taking notes on? How do they manage information? Especially when it's a resistance to technology, where does the paper come in and why is the paper easier to them, or why does it feel easier to them? What need is that serving for them? And really just understanding it, not trying to change it or improve it or do anything to it, just let me understand your current process. I really want to make sure no matter what solution we come up with, it really meets your need, your process, your way of doing your work. Because presumably they're really good at what they do, and that's why they're in the roles that they're in, and probably why they're a little bit resistant too. Like, this is working for me. So take some time and understand that, and that's a great way to also deepen that relationship with that stakeholder. And then focus on their problems, right? So what are they frustrated by? In the scenario that the BA brought up with us, they were frustrated, or maybe they weren't, but it sounded like there was maybe some frustration that they traveled a lot. And so they had all these paper notes that were in filing cabinets that they couldn't refer to easily. So is that a point of frustration for them, or is that not? Like, do they have a way of working around that? And if so, what is it, right? But what's their frustration? If the system could do one thing for them, what would it be? Like, what would change the game for them? And sometimes, especially if you're dealing with higher level stakeholders that have a lot of power in the organization, but haven't really been involved in the project so far, this is where you can use a little bit of that influence you have as a BA and be like, this really important stakeholder is frustrated by this. I know we weren't really planning on addressing that potential issue right away for this project, but do you think we could adjust some things that would really help get them on board? And so you actually help bring that frustration into the scope of the project, and that can really help wear down some of that resistance, right? Because now you're solving a problem that they care about, that they want solved, and you're bringing it into the context of the project, and you're putting it in the light of, if we can solve this problem, we're also going to solve all these other bigger picture problems, which is probably why the project got started in the first place. And I saw a project manager do this on one of the organizations I was in there as a contractor, and everybody was new to me, but you knew this particular team It's going to be super resistant, and we might not get any information from them. They were just so resistant. Or we might go in and they give us the wrong information, like craziness. And she went in and she's like, let's just talk about your problems. What's on your plate? Like, what's slowing you down? And they just gave us this overload of information about what their frustrations were. And some of it wasn't in scope for the project originally. And she took that and went back to the executives and said, we really need to address this in addition to the things that you wanted to address in the first place. And we might have to actually eliminate a few of your things to make sure that we get this really important group on board. And it did wonders. Like, it was like she had just like paved a trail of gold for me as the business analyst to like walk behind her and say, okay, now let's get the detailed requirements for these issues that have been bothering you for a long time. She really broke down that disengagement and turned it into trust and generosity and excitement about the project. Okay, so as you do this, then you also want to share wins. And this is a little bit above and beyond, right? So now that, you see, say, other salespeople working and using the CRM, this is once your project gets going. If you're still facing resistance, share the wins. Who are the people that are really using the system really effectively? What are their processes? How did they organize their work a little bit differently? Just share those wins and adjustments. How is it affecting their sales or their numbers, or, how hey, so-and-so is able to leave early on Fridays because, his sales notes process is so much easier. It's just whatever it is that might be important to that stakeholder, share those wins and share, so when you see somebody actually having success, share that more broadly so that people start to see people are using the system and having results and they're solving these problems. Okay, so those are some strategies. Those are 4. Now there's a 5th one. I promised you 5. And that is to secure higher level support. So at the end of the day, as business analysts, we have influence, right? We don't have authority. We can't fire people. We can't remove their paper, right? We can't do anything specific to make anybody do anything. Nobody really can make anybody do anything, but as business analysts, we really can't do that. So sometimes we have to get higher level stakeholders involved. And that could be escalating to the director, the VP, or the manager, whoever is that level up from that person who's really resistant. And it's really up to them to say, if the problem to be solved by this project, if the return on investment of using this new system is so important to the company, then we're going to stake our performance metrics on it. I'm going to pull out the rug on the old system. We're going to make it really uncomfortable for you not to use the new system in some way. After they go through all the influence and authority and you really need to do this tactics, it might come down to, a much harder line. And that's not for you to do as a business analyst. It's just for you to be aware of how these things might play out in an organizational context. So fun story, or kind of a quirky story, is my mother-in-law is a retired nurse, and she still talks about the day that they introduced electronic health records at her office, and that led to her retirement. Like, she consciously chose not to learn to use the new system and chose to retire instead. And to this day, she doesn't use a computer, right? So she does not see her kids' pictures on Facebook. We can barely get a hold of her on a cell phone. She has no desire to be part of any part of that technology. And that was a choice. And she organized her career around it and her exit from a career around it. And that happens too in some organizations and with some people that are really, truly resistant to change. And you can do all these things, but you can't force people to change. And so just kind of beware of the limits of the scope of what you have as a business analyst. Do your best. You definitely don't want a bunch of people retiring because of your project, but sometimes that happens, and that's okay. And that doesn't mean you did a bad job. So I hope this answered your question. Great question. We could talk about this topic for a long time. It's a really good one. It's a really juicy one. And looking forward to seeing how your engagement with stakeholders and helping them overcome that resistance to technology. It's really about, this is the sales process that we do as business analysts, and helping people see a brighter future and change the way that they need to change. That really creates a positive change for organizations as well. So you're doing great work. Thank you for what you do. My name is Laura Brandenburg. I'm the creator of Bridging the Gap, and we help make career professionals start business analyst careers.